Thank you, Ebony, and welcome everyone to this month's Connect with Remedy monthly webinar session. I just wanted to let you know during the presentation, if you have questions on any of the content, you can ask during the presentation in the Q&A pod of the WebEx event, and our panelists will be able to answer those questions. This webinar is recorded, and the recording and final Q&A will be published a week from today's date. Again, the topic today is digital workplace MongoDB conversion. I'll turn it over to Sirjad, our presenter today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sirjad. I'm with BMC, working as a senior manager for product development for digital workplace and the cloud applications. So today I'm going to talk about digital workplace MongoDB conversion, which is from 1805 version. We have actually removed the dependency of Mongo and moved everything to database, which means that less less components to maintain for customers. So we'll dig deeper into the architecture, what are the changes in the deployment architecture and so forth. So I'll dive into the agenda. So for today, the first topic we'll talk about is the pre-1805 deployment architecture, so that you have an idea what was there before. And then we'll talk about 1805 deployment architecture, which is basically the changes in 1805. And then we'll talk about the supported upgrade paths to get to 1805. And then what are the affected areas that you need to be aware of during the upgrade. And how do you migrate your data from Mongo database to the relational database? And what are the social tables that we have added in the database, which will be a useful information because the way we stored this data in Mongo and now it has moved to database. So what are the new tables that are added? And some tips such as, if you have large Mongo database, how do you estimate the size and time for data migration? And the final point is how do you perform the upgrade, basically the steps to perform the upgrade. And I'll also, give you some references from the documentation and other materials. Then the last topic would be Q&A. All right, so let's get into the first topic, which is pre-1805 deployment architecture. So this is the pre-1805 deployment architecture, which most of you should be aware of if you are already using digital workplace. As we all know, we have multiple components here. We have the client. And we have three different variations of the client. We have the web app, and we have two native apps, one for iOS and one for Android. And then we have the server component here, which is the digital workplace server, which is again combined with Smart IT. So Smart IT and digital workplace, both it used to run on the same infrastructure. And behind your load balancer, you have your Mongo database and your relational database for digital workplace as well as Smart IT. And it also talks to the AR ITSM server and the Remedy SSO. Also, digital workplace has other integrations with Exchange Server, BPPM or TrueSight, CLM, etc., all the other providers that digital workplace integrate with. So this is the basic architecture of pre-1805 digital workplace. We also have the integration with Google Cloud, GCM, and the Apple Push Notification Service to get notification on your mobile device if you're using the native application. So that's the high-level architecture for digital workplace pre-1805. Now let's look at what has changed in 1805. So overall, you won't see too much difference except removing some components such as MongoDB. So on the client side, there is no real change in terms of the number of applications. We have the web app as well as the mobile app or the native app. And here on the digital workplace server, you see only digital workplace server and no Smart IT. So along with removing Mongo database, we have also separated digital workplace and Smart IT as two separate products, so that it is easy for customers to manage and maintain. And most of the times what we have seen is digital workplace is managed by one group and Smart IT is managed by another group. And when you do an upgrade, there's a lot of dependency. One group is not ready to do the upgrade, the other wants to do it, and then there is always lot of dependencies, and especially when it comes to ITSM side, Smart IT has more dependency on ITSM than digital workplace. So we thought it would be a good idea, and based on the customer feedback, to separate these two products out, and by having two separate installers, so that you can have you can deploy it on separate servers, you can manage it separately, etc., etc. So that's the main change you will see on this side, on the digital workplace server. On the back end, for the persistence, you no longer see the Mongo database here. Everything goes into the digital workplace relational database. This also means there is a split of the persistence part for digital workplace and Smart IT, because now you will have to decide when you do an upgrade whether you want to use the existing database just for digital workplace or Smart IT. If you decide to use it for Smart IT, then you will have to create a new database for digital workplace and then migrate the data from the existing database into the new one. We'll get into more details in the upcoming slides. So this is the overall architecture change. Again, one component, Mongo, it is gone. You no longer have to maintain it once you upgrade to 1805. So it's a simple deployment architecture. And the other thing to note here is with respect to the ITSM side, we used to have the metadata that we used to store on the ITSM side under an application called Mobility Framework. So you might have seen if you go to mid-tier, you might have seen something called My IT Administration Console, Mobility Admin Console, and that is where we used to store metadata for the digital workplace application. Now that is also moved into the digital workplace database. So you will no longer need that as well. Even though it was there, it was not something customers use it to configure or anything. It was just there. But that is also moved from Remedy ITSM into the digital workplace relational database. So overall, we have simplified a lot in this architecture. You just have the client and server database. That's pretty much it. One database which takes care of everything, and you have one server dedicated for digital workplace. It is not shared with Smart IT or any other application, and you have the client side. Also, we have changed the one change on the client side is which if you are doing an upgrade, you probably won't notice, because we do provide backward compatibility. So we have the application context pre-1805 as your host name or your load balancer port /UX. Now we have a new application context called Digital Workplace DWP. So that is another change on the client side, another major change on the client side. However, we do provide backward compatibility if you are doing an upgrade from pre-1805 to 1805. What that means is your UX context will still be retained during the upgrade, so that end users who are accessing the web application, they won't really see it. They'll get a seamless experience. So that's about the high-level architecture from 1805 onwards. Now let's talk about the next topic, which is supported upgrade paths. How do you get to 1805? So If you are on 2.6 to 3.3 version of Digital Workplace or MyIT, and your ITSM is 9.0 or below, then you will have to first upgrade your ITSM to 9.1 or above version, and you will also have to upgrade your Digital Workplace first to 3.3.02 version. That's a minimum version, and then from 3.3.02 you can do a direct upgrade to 18.05. So if you are on 2.6 to 3.3 version, again, to get to Digital Workplace 18.05, it will be a two-step process. Step 1 is upgrade to 3.3.02. Step 2 is upgrade from 3.3.02 to 18.05. And if your ITSM is 9.0 or below version, then you also have to upgrade your ITSM to 9.1 or above, because 18.05 supports only 9.1 and above version of ITSM. Now the second option, or the second upgrade path, if you're on 3.3.02 to 18.02 version, any version between 3.3.02 to 18.02, you can actually do a direct upgrade to 18.05. Same time, please note that your ITSM version also has to be 9.1 and above, because that's what Digital Workplace supports. So those are the two upgrade paths. Again, to summarize it, if you are on below 3.3.02, then you will have to do two-phase upgrade or a two-step upgrade from the Digital Workplace side, first to 3.3.02 and then to 18.05. If you are on 3.3.02 to 18.02, you can do a direct upgrade to 18.05. All right, now let's talk about the affected areas due to this infrastructure changes in the deployment architecture. So there are a few changes to note, especially if you are an admin type user who takes care of managing and maintaining Digital Workplace. The first one, the installation directory, the default one on Linux server, it goes to OPT BMC Smart IT MyIT. Now we have actually changed that to OPT BMC DWP. And on Windows, it goes to the program files, BMC software, Smart IT, MyIT. So basically, Smart IT, MyIT is replaced with Digital Workplace, DWP. The next one is the web application installation directory, and this is something you will notice if you're deploying patches and hotfixes, that we have the deployable app. We used to call it as the UX. Now we are calling it as DWP, which is Digital Workplace again. So again, the path change there is from OPT BMC Smart IT MyIT, Smart IT MyIT UX to OPT BMC DWP, and then DWP. So that's where your deployable app is. The next one is mobile client download directory. Again, we used to have the directory Smart IT MyIT IPA, so we have actually changed that to DWP IPA. So that's another change if you are using mobile application, and where in case if you are looking for the directory for mobile application. The next one is configuration for mobile clients download page. This is where you configure how to download the mobile app. You have the download XML file, which is now updated to download -dwp.xml file. Let's look at some other affected areas. We have a few more. If you're troubleshooting any issue with Digital Workplace, you often update the logback XML to generate logs to set the log to, let's say, debug for the entire application or for a selected package. You used to do that in logback.xml file. Now we have updated that path, and we have a new name for it called logback-dwp.xml. Similarly, for the application configuration that we used to store in connect.properties file, which is again updated to connect-dwp.properties. So after 18.05 upgrade, you should look at connect-dwp.properties file instead of connect.properties. The next one is Tomcat Web App folder. Again, UX Web App, which is the one I talked about in the previous slide, where it used to be under Smart IT, My IT, Smart IT, My IT, UX. It's now moved to DWP, DWP. So again, UX had two deployable applications in the past, which is Digital Workplace as well as Smart IT. Now from 1805, the DWP folder will contain only the DWP deployable app and no Smart IT. So that's because Smart IT is separated from DWP from 1805 onwards. Also, if you understand the architecture where we use providers to connect to different data sources, we have the provider directory where we store all the providers and its related libraries. So those are now again renamed under external conf. We have a new directory created called DWP, and under DWP you will see provider. Again, the change you will see here is the previous provider folder used to have Smart IT and DWP providers. Now you will see only the DWP providers under the DWP/provider folder. For the database configuration, we used to have a XML file ux.xml under the Catalina localhost. Now it is called DWP.xml. The next affected area, again, I talked about it in the architecture diagram. The shared AR, we call it as shared AR, the metadata that we store. So that is no longer used, and all the metadata is moved to the database. And the reason why we call this as shared AR is mostly for the cloud-based deployment. We wanted to separate all the DWP metadata from the ITSM server. So we used to stand up a separate AR server just to store metadata in a shared cluster environment in cloud, so which is why we used to call it as shared AR. But from an on-prem deployment perspective, everything goes into the ITSM server, which is why you used to see the My IT Mobility Admin Console on the mid-tier. Now, again, that is removed, and all that metadata is moved to a database. For the social part, which is again to interact with the MongoDB, we used to have Node.js used by both DWP and Smart IT. Now, DWP no longer uses the social component with Node.js. Instead, we re-engineered that with a new social, which is a Java-based one, and that directly talks to the relational database. So that's another component which is removed as part of Mongo. So you don't have the Node.js running on the DWP server. The next affected area is on the installer side. The DWP and Smart IT used to share the same installer. Now we have separate installer for Digital Workplace and Smart IT. From the UX patch perspective, DWP and Smart IT used to share, again, one installer for UX patch with an option to deploy Smart IT workflows. Now, starting from 1805, DWP has its own DWP patch installer, which again, we are removing a lot of dependency on the UX and the social cloud plugin. So that's another area where we have simplified. So that's the next one, the social cloud plugin, which used to get deployed on the AR server when you run the UX patch installer. That is no longer being used by Digital Workplace. It used to be, in the past, both Smart IT and DWP used to use it. We no longer use that social cloud plugin. So all we deploy as part of the DWP patch installer on the ITSM server is all the workflows that are required for the integration to work, mainly the SRM, RKM approval integration to work. On the client side, again, like I said, we do guarantee backward compatibility. But from a web app perspective, if you're doing an upgrade, then we support both contexts, the existing context and the new context. The existing context UX/MyIT app, and the new context is DWP/app. So both are supported if you are performing an upgrade. However, if you're doing a new installation or a fresh installation, there will only be one context, which is the DWP, because the assumption there is you are a new customer and you don't need to know about the old context, so it's less of a maintenance overhead, right? So that's one. And even for the older version of the client, let's say you are doing an upgrade from 1802 to 1805 and you're still using an 1802 mobile app, that will still work with the 1805 backend. So even that backward compatibility is maintained. Last affected areas, this is the one I just talked about, the mobile client backward compatibility. We do guarantee that backward compatibility to 2 previous versions. So if you are doing an upgrade to 1805 and if you are from 3.5 or 1802, you could still use the existing mobile application and it will continue to work. However, if you are looking for any new features which are delivered as part of 1805, those won't be available in the older version of app, right? To get that, you will have to upgrade your application, the mobile app as well, to the latest version. But if you want to just test it out and if you want to just use it, typically it takes some time to roll out the mobile app to end users. So that will happen after the server upgrade. So you do the server upgrade, maybe then few days you use the 3.5 or 1802 version of the app, and then if you're using an automated deployment such as MDM or EMM solution to push the application, then you push the new app to your EMM and then it automatically updates the app from 3.5 or 1802 to 1805. Shared hyperlinks, this is another one because a lot of people store the hyperlink to a knowledge article or a particular service as a bookmark item or in an email. Then if you want to use an existing hyperlink, it will continue to work, or we call it as the share URL or a deep link URL. So it will continue to work after the upgrade because we guarantee that the old context is still backward compatible. So those are the affected areas, and the next topic here is the data migration. What are the type of data that we store in MongoDB or we used to store in MongoDB, and now we are moving to RDBMS. So these are the objects that we used to store in the Mongo database that we are now moving to a relational database. So we have all the resources and tags. These are all related to the social functionality we have in the digital workplace. Notifications are stored in MongoDB. There's user information stored in MongoDB. All the posts, the social posts, microblogs that you create, those are stored in MongoDB. And any comments that you add to a post or any object, to a location, to a service health, to a group, to a user, anything you post or you add a comment, all those are stored in MongoDB. The groups you created, the posts you share, so all these resources. We have few more. The users that you follow, and any resources that you follow, such as location, service health, or a person, all these are resources. And any user that you mention in your post, suppose you're creating a microblog and mentioning someone, any group that you're mentioning or any other resources such as location, I'm at this location, or where is this room, at this printer. So anything that you mention, any resource that you mention, and any service status history. So if you're using service health feature, the history of service service health, the status, it changed from maintenance to available, or it is down for maintenance, there is a performance upgrade, whatever the status changes that you change for service health. All those things are stored in the Mongo database. Now, these are the things that we are moving from Mongo to relational database. So now let's talk about the new tables that we have added into the database to move this data from Mongo to the database. So these are the new tables that we have introduced in 1805. Some of them are actually existing, which we enhanced by adding additional constraints and additional fields or columns, which is why you will still see some of the existing ones here, such as asset. So share is a new one, mention, following, again asset, there is some addition to it, attachment, service, tag, like, notification status, notification. So these are the new tables that you will see. Again, some more here. There's a group table, comment, post, user, location, contact, offering, status service, CLM. So these are the different tables that we have added in order to migrate the data from Mongo to relational database. So the next topic is now all about when you prepare the upgrade and data migration. So let's talk about that here. So how do you estimate the data migration from Mongo to your relational database? There are a few ways to do that. First and foremost, what I would highly recommend every customer is you take a backup of your production Mongo and then replicate that in your lower environment, dev or QA, and then you run an upgrade against it just to make sure that your data migration goes through fine. Because the reason is you don't want to have surprises during the production database upgrade. So you want to make sure that you do that, and this is highly recommended that every customer should take their Mongo database, production database, and then replicate it in QA or dev, any lower environment, and then run an upgrade to make sure that all your data gets migrated properly, so that you have a smooth production upgrade and no surprises. So we have some tools available to estimate the size. We call it as a migration utility. So this is this utility. When you run it, again, there are detailed instruction available in the documentation. In the interest of time, I won't be able to go through every step here, but I'll definitely give you the references where you can go and look at this information. So these scripts that I have here on the screen, it will give you information about the number of notifications that you have and the estimated migration time and the estimated database size required to migrate this data. So one thing to note here, though, is you see when you run the script, you will get the information as in a period of 30 days, 90 days, 365 days, and all. So if you have large number of notification in your MongoDB, let's say you've been using Digital Workplace for the last 3-4 years, and you have large number of notifications in your MongoDB, maybe it's a good idea to clean them up because these are old notification and you no longer need it and you don't really have to migrate them. So you could clean them up and then maybe pick the last 30 days, retain just the last 30 days notification, and then just migrate those 30 days notification. So that's something to keep in mind. So you don't want to move everything into the database and later run some maintenance script to clean up. Instead, clean up at the source itself in the Mongo, and then migrate only the latest data which are relevant. So now let's talk about how do you perform the upgrade. Now, so these are the steps. We'll go through the flow chart. I'll spend a good amount of time on this flow chart because it's important. Everyone should understand the steps here. let's say I want to upgrade my digital, I want to upgrade my digital workplace to 1805. First thing, take a backup of your environment, everything, your server, your database, your Mongo. You already have a backup. You take the backup. If not, take the backup, and then we'll run the upgrade. Now, before the upgrade, you will check if the version of your current digital workplace. Like I said earlier, if it is below 3302, then it's a two-step upgrade. So you will decide there whether you wanted to do a two-step upgrade or a one-step upgrade based on your existing digital workplace version and your ITSM version. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is if you are using Smart IT. Let's say you are using Smart IT and digital workplace, then in order to upgrade your Smart IT to 1805, you will also have to upgrade your ITSM to 1805. So that's a dependency just for Smart IT, not for digital workplace. So what you can do is you can just upgrade digital workplace to 1805 and then use existing version of Smart IT, whatever that version is, 2.0 or 1.6 or 1.5, whatever that version is. And then when you're ready for your ITSM upgrade, you can upgrade your Smart IT to 1805. So that way, you eliminate the dependency. You just upgrade DWP. You're good. You're good to go. As long as your AR ITSM is on 9.1 and above, and you can just upgrade your digital workplace to 1805. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is when you're doing the upgrade, it will ask you a few things. So let's go through that. So the first thing it will ask you is, are you using Smart IT? If you're not using Smart IT, things will be much easier for you because you can repurpose your existing infrastructure just for DWP. So in the past, even if whether you use Smart IT or not, we deploy the Smart IT app on the digital workplace server, on the same server, because it's a shared infrastructure. And what we tell customers is whenever you're ready to enable Smart IT, you run the UX patch on the ITSM, which will deploy all the workflows for Smart IT, and you will run the onboarding and then enable Smart IT. But if you're not using Smart IT, then you can repurpose the existing infrastructure where it just upgrades digital workplace. It no longer deploys any Smart IT components, and it repurposes the existing database for digital workplace. It used to be shared, but now we can repurpose it just for DWP. So you don't have to do anything new there. All you do is you say, okay, I'm not using Smart IT, and then it'll ask you, do I want to migrate my data during the upgrade, or you want to do it post-upgrade? We highly recommend you do the migration as a post-upgrade using the migration utility. The reason is that the migration utility contains a lot of fixes that are based on the experience we've had with customers and customers' databases. We have, all the migration issues that we have encountered during internal as well as customer upgrades, all those are fixed in the migration utility. So it's always better to use the migration utility and then migrate the data as a post-upgrade activity. The installer also provides an option to run migration as part of the upgrade, which typically you can use it if you're using a QA or a POC type environment where you're absolutely sure that there is no social data, or you don't really care much about the social data, and then it's not going to have much impact. There's no huge amount of data in your Mongo. So in that case, you could select it, but for production, definitely we highly encourage customers to use the migration utility so that you have a safe, you have a smooth upgrade from existing version to 1805, and you have a smooth migration. Again, another recommendation there I will repeat is please take a backup of your production Mongo database, replicate it in your lower environment, and run migration against it so that you are 100% sure that all data is migrated and there are no issues during production upgrade. So again, here before running the step here, once you decide the version, if you're on 3.302 to 18.02, you're running a direct upgrade. You can use the utilities to estimate the image size and the database space you have, so the attachment size and the notification, all that using the utility, and then you upgrade it. You upgrade the digital workplace to 18.05. Now, once you upgrade it, like I said, you don't select the option to migrate the data during the upgrade, so you will do that later. And another thing is, if you are using Smart IT, that's a part which I didn't cover. The first part I covered is, if you are not using Smart IT, you can repurpose your existing infrastructure just for DWP. But if you are using Smart IT, the installer will have an option which will ask you to create a new database. You can do that as a pre-created database outside of installer and point to it, or you could create it through the installer and then use that as your new digital workplace business and system schema. The existing business and system schema will be used by Smart IT. Since if you select that option, yes, I'm using Smart IT, then what it means is to run the existing Smart IT, you need to have the business and system schema and the Mongo, right? So we will not touch that. All we will do is we will actually take the data, what is relevant for DWP, and migrate that into the new database which you create for DWP. And this database, you could create it outside of the installer or as part of the upgrade. So then after the upgrade is completed, you migrate the data using the migration utility, and that's pretty much it. If you are not using Smart IT, then you can, we have steps to clean up the environment, to remove all the Mongo stuff, the social Node.js, existing Smart IT, My IT install directory, UX, everything, all the existing files from the server, so you can do all the cleanup, you're good to go. Now, if you are using Smart IT, then you don't want to touch any of those existing stuff until you upgrade your Smart IT to 18.05 along with your ITSM. Again, I'm not going to cover the Smart IT upgrade steps in this webinar, but that's the high level. I mean, you just do the digital workplace upgrade, and if you're using Smart IT, do not touch any of the existing components because that are still needed for the existing version of Smart IT. However, if you are not using Smart IT, you can run the cleanup steps and then clean up Mongo and all the other components which we have removed from 18.05. So that's about the upgrade steps. Now, there are some tips for the upgrade and the data migration. The first step is extremely important. Always look for or use the latest version of data migration utility, which comes as part of the cumulative hotfix. So whenever we hear feedback from customers that migration utility has some problems or defects, we fix it immediately and then create a cumulative hotfix for it. So use the latest and greatest cumulative hotfixes of migration utility so that you don't run into a problem that we are already aware of and addressed. Right? Now, if there are new problems that are specific to the data that you use or your environment, quite possible, which is why we highly recommend customers to use the production replica of Mongo and then run an upgrade against it in lower environments so that you know exactly what type of data you have and if you will run into any problems or not. Now, in order to look at the logs for migration, always set the log level to info so that you can get all the logs. It is going to log the info, warning, and error messages. you can review the log under the social2 migration logs, and the log file name is social.log, which is where we store all the logs. Now, there are two issues that you could potentially run into when you run the migration. One is there could be a data issue that the migration utility is unable to handle. So in those cases, it might be something simple. Let's say there is some duplicate data in for a specific user in Mongo, and then when you're trying to upgrade, it is complaining about it and it is failing. The migration, let's say the migration utility is not handling that specific error. If the error is straightforward, you know exactly where the problem is, or if BMC support engineering is able to help you pinpoint, okay, this is the data which is causing the problem, then you could remove that data, the duplicate data, and then you can rerun the migration, which will, so in that case, you don't have to wait for any new fix or anything from the BMC side. So in that case, what you will do is you will run the migration clean, and then you will rerun migration. So the steps are, you detect the problem, and then you fix the problem. Once you fix the problem, you run migration clean, which will again clean the database, make sure that there is no data from Mongo to the database, and then you migrate the data again from Mongo to database, so that it's a clean migration. We don't have a concept of a delta data migration, which means like I run the migration from Mongo to database, something failed, now I fix the problem, I rerun it. It starts from where it stopped, right? Or so we don't have that. So you always have to do a clean and then you run migration. So fix the problem if you know that where exactly the problem is. The second is there is a defect which could cause during the data migration, and you're expecting a fix from BMC. BMC provides you the fix, and then you deploy the new migration utility and you run the same steps. You run migration clean to clean the existing data, and then you run migration out. So that's how you do the migration. I think that's the last topic that I have, the tips, and here are the references that is used for to prepare this presentation. We have detailed documentation available for upgrade, how to perform the upgrade, the cleanup script, the migration, utilities available for migration, how do you estimate it, and the flowchart that I showed. In fact, the documentation has a much more detailed version of the flowchart. It also covers the Smart IT scenario. So if you are using Smart IT, that will be helpful for you as well. So I think that is pretty much we have, and I think that takes us to the last topic, which is Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sirjad. And Ebony, would you please provide instructions for our callers to signal you for questions they may have?
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, please signal by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad. If you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. A voice prompt on the phone line will indicate when your line is open, and please state your name before posing your question. Once again, press *1 at this time, and we'll pause for just a moment to allow everyone an opportunity to signal. And we will take our first question. Caller, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Oh, hi, this is Saurabh from Check Operation. I have one question over here. When we have said when we will upgrade the Smart IT to 18.5 or 18.8, we don't have to touch anything. So in upgradation, we are not removing the MongoDB, or if we are doing the fresh installation, then we are removing the MongoDB. Or the utility which you have talked only, because that part is a little bit confusing for me. The utilities which we have talked to migrate the data from MongoDB to the RDBMS, like Oracle or SQL, it is only works in case of DWP or Smart IT 2.
So that's a good question. So the question is, again, I'll repeat the question. It is when you do the upgrade, the utility that we use for migration, whether the utility will migrate the data for DWP or it will do it for Smart IT. Now, the upgrade for DWP and Smart IT, it is done separately because now from 1805 onwards, these are two different products. So the DWP migration utility will only migrate the digital workplace data. You have a similar utility for Smart IT, which will help to migrate the Smart IT data when you do the Smart IT upgrade to 1805 or 1808. Now, there was another related question there about fresh install. There is no Mongo component in fresh install, so you don't have to deal with the migration of any Mongo data. The fresh install just deploys DWP or Smart IT server, depending upon which installer you're running, and then the database creation for its persistence. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, thanks. That answers my question. Thank you.
And there are no further telephone questions at this time, but again, that is *1, everyone. And we'll take our next question. Caller, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kevin from Temple University. I just had a question about with the DWP and the Smart IT being separate installers now, do you recommend totally different servers for them, or can they be done on the same server as it was before?
That's a good question, Kevin. Thanks for asking. So again, the question is, do we recommend using the same server for DWP and Smart IT, or we recommend using a separate server for DWP and Smart IT? Now that the products are separated, we highly recommend using separate servers for DWP and Smart IT. But at the same time, on the Smart IT side, I don't know if it is supported today, which I doubt it, but Smart IT is moving closer and closer towards ITSM. So they wanted to, be close to ITSM and align with the ITSM release. And there is also a thought process going on to have Smart IT running on the same mid-tier server so that you are not, provisioning a new server for Smart IT, which can work today, but again, there are resources, both are running on different Tomcats and different deployable application and so forth. It's not one app. So, but that's the thought process that's going through right now. But at the same time, I would say that yes, for now, we recommend using separate servers for Smart IT and digital workplace, especially from a digital workplace perspective. It's better to have a separate server. The release cadence is different for DWP, and if you are aggressive on the DWP side, then you will be doing an upgrade like every 3 months or 4 months. So you don't want to have any conflict with Smart IT or the team who's managing Smart IT. Hope that answers your question, Kevin.
And we will take our next question. Caller, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. My name is Anurag. I'm also NCR Corporation. There was another question from Saurabh. So we are on Smart IT 2.0 and ITSM 9.x 9.1. So can we move directly to 1805?
Yes, you can, provided you have to upgrade your ITSM to 1805, because that's the dependency for Smart IT 1805.
Okay, so Smart IT 2.0 and ITSM 1.1 will directly, we can go directly from this version to 1805 or 1808.
That's correct, yes. So you will do an ITSM upgrade to 1805 and then Smart IT to 1805.
Okay.
Or 1808.
1808, okay. All right, thank you.
And one thing to note there is this is a general, information. since 1805 of digital workplace requires this, big migration and removal of Mongo and everything, any version you wanted to go beyond 1805, let's say 1808 or 1811 is going to come out by end of November, you first have to go to 1805. So any upgrade post 1805, the minimum version is 1805. So if you want to go to 1808 from a DWP perspective, if you want to go to 1808, you first go to 1805. So that means if you are on, let's say below 3302, then you first have to get to 3302 and then to 1805 and then to 1808. So that's just for information.
Once again, everyone, it is star one to ask a question. We'll take our next caller. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I have similar questions. So with the DWP, I have a DWP Advanced. Is it the same upgrade process for DWP, or is it two different? I think DWP Advanced is also the same upgrade process.
Yes, I mean in terms of the upgrade path and the version supported, that is correct, but there is no data migration or any change in the deployment architecture for DWP Advanced. The catalog, what I mean by that is the catalog installer, or we used to call it a service broker.
Correct.
So you could do that upgrade directly, and there is no Mongo or any other components we removed from the catalog side. So yes, but in terms of the version, we wanted to be consistent, so we follow the same versions what the DWP or MyIT follows.
Because right now we have 3.3.02, right? If we want to upgrade our DWP, with Advanced, we have to do the same thing, right? We have to go to 1805, and this also includes the MongoDB removal, right? And then if you have Smart IT, then you have to keep the Mongo database.
That's right, yes. You keep the Smart IT, you keep the MongoDB until you upgrade Smart IT to 1805.
And with the Advanced, I'm not sure if this question for this webinar, but the DWP comes with other other connectors like Jira connectors. Does it comes out of box with Advanced upgrade?
So good question. So for Advanced, we have some in-process connectors available already. So those will continue to be there. We are not building any new connector with new in-process connectors. However, there are other options available, such as we have the integration service, which is a cloud-based offering, which has a lot of connectors. That's one. The second thing is we are also working on a remote connector framework for customers to build their own in-process connectors, especially if you are an on-prem shop and if you want to build a connector to integrate with another third-party system or a homegrown application or whatever it is. You will be able to do that using the remote connector framework, which is going to come pretty soon. So those will be your options. You'll have the remote connector framework, or if you want to do cloud-to-cloud integration, you can leverage the integration service, or you can use any existing in-process connectors.
And I think one more last question, I think, is since MongoDB is going to go away if I move my upgrade to Smart IT and DWP, is it the functionality will remain same? Like, we have a following, we have, the social feed dashboard. This going to stay same with the moving to okay. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is feature parity. We are not removing any features right now from the social perspective. So everything is there. It will continue to work. It's just the logic has changed, and the internal components have changed. That's it. But from a functionality perspective, everything should be intact.
All right, sounds good. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question. Caller, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, Sirjad. I have a question. In the MyG administration console, before we could define query size for the queries, do we have the same functionality for 1805?
Good question. So defining the query size was there, for cases such as if you have large number of, let's say, service requests and sometimes large number of questions and things like that, it does not load, then we ask you to set the query size. But in the new way, we actually have the size set as sort of unlimited, and we are not seeing any performance issues or anything with it. So there is no need to really change any of the query sizes in the new way. So we are not really exposing those options because, it's not really required. We felt that, it is too much of administration overhead for customers because you will only do the query size tuning once you identify that, oh, I have a large SRD with, so many questions and it's not loading on mobile and so forth. So we no longer have that problem. So with the new way of new metadata.
Okay, thanks.
And we'll take our next caller. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Eric Alfonso. I just wanted to clarify. I think you said this, but it's been asked different ways, and I'm kind of a little confused. So we're at AR version 9103. Digital Workplace 3.3.02 and Digital Workplace Catalog Service Broker 3.3.02. Can we upgrade to Digital Workplace 1805 without upgrading AR and Digital Workplace Catalog?
Yes, you can. So if you're on 9103, yes, you can upgrade Digital Workplace and Catalog to 1805. However, if you're using
I'm saying, can we leave Digital Workplace Catalog at 3.302 and just upgrade Digital Workplace to 1805? Are those compatible?
No, that's not compatible, Eric. You will have to upgrade both a Catalog and Digital Workplace to 1805.
I see, but the AR version is compatible.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Once again, everyone, that is *1 to ask a question. We'll take our next caller. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I have one question similar to the last question which the guy had asked, and this is sort of from NCR again. We have a 3.2.4.1 Smart IT, and earlier the packages, the Smart IT package have the both DWP and Smart IT. I have both installed on my system on a single server. Now the situation is that we are not using DWP currently, and if I will plan to upgrade the Smart IT remedy to 18.5 or 18.08 and Smart IT to 18.5 or 18.8, if from now D2P is separated from Smart IT, right? So if I need to touch the existing D2P, or I can left it as it is.
So you can upgrade as it is, and then you can remove the DWP. So what you will do in that case is you don't have to run DWP installer. You will run the Smart IT installer because you're not using DWP. You will run the Smart IT installer and upgrade to 1805 or 1808. And after you complete the upgrade, you can follow the cleanup steps to clean up the DWP stuff from your server. That's that's a step. Sorry, I think your voice was breaking. I didn't get that last part. Could you repeat, please?
So if we have the documentation around that to clean up the existing D2P from the current server, so that we can have.
So there is. I believe there is. I know that we have it for from the DWP perspective. We have it. When you run the upgrade, if you want to remove any Smart IT stuff from the DWP server or any old stuff, it's pretty much the same documentation, but I don't know if there is any separate topic. We'll have to check and get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
You are taking that, right? Okay. We are taking that note. We'll get back to you on that.
And we'll move to our next caller. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Kevin again from Temple University. All the questions I really had were answered. They were basically, if we upgrade the DWP to 1805 only, we have the service broker catalog that has to be on 1805 as well. So that's really the question I had for you guys. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, one thing to keep in mind is whenever you upgrade DWP, you have to, and if you're using the catalog or DWP Advanced, you also have to upgrade your catalog to that same version. It goes hand in hand. So, and in fact, a lot of the new features that are coming out in the recent releases are more on the catalog side. So definitely you must upgrade the catalog as well.
All right, and as a reminder, everyone, it is *1 to ask a question, and we'll take our next caller. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Rohit again from Lowe's. So I think you mentioned, DWP, has to be upgraded to 1805, and then you can go to the more recent version, which is like 1808 or 1811 or 1902. But is it the same thing for ITSM and component platform, which is AR system and CMDB? So they also has to be, if they are 9.1.x, they also has to be go to the two-phase upgrade. They has to go to 1805 and then 1808, or should I just, for ITSM and AR system, I can just jump from 9.102 to 1808?
Yeah, you can actually jump from 9.1 to 1808, right? No,
for ITSM, you need to go to 1805 first, because 1808 is delivered as packages.
The package, yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Yes. So so you have to do that too.
Oh, it's the same, but two-phase upgrade. Okay.
Yeah, correct. But the difference is, I think, you have a DWP package that you deploy to get to 1808.
Okay, so it's like it's kind of installed. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, we'll include with this recording a link to a video that kind of explains that ITSM upgrade paths to make that a little more clear.
Thank you. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, it does appear that there are no further telephone questions at this time, but again, that is *1. We'll pause for just another moment to allow everyone an opportunity to signal. And we'll take our next caller. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
So the presentation you guys have just showed, it will be shared over the BMC community, right?
That is correct. This will be the recording, and all the final Q&A will be posted within a week from today's presentation on BMC communities, as well as in our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
And there are no further telephone questions. Oh, I apologize. We have another question in the queue. Caller, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, you mentioned about different release cadence for digital workplace as opposed to Smart IT, ITSM, right? And then you also mentioned about going forward, the base ITSM version will be 18.5. So, so when newer versions of DWP are coming, so that still will have some dependency as a prerequisite ITSM version, right?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't say the base version of ITSM is 1805. From digital workplace perspective, we support 9.1 and above. So in order to upgrade a DWP to 1805, you can be on 9.1 version of ITSM and above. And usually there is no, there is no real dependency on the ITSM server specific to a version. What we do is, if there is a dependency, we actually add that into our integration patch. We used to call it as the UX patch, and then take care of it rather than wait for a specific ITSM release.
Okay. Another question, in the integration architecture, sorry, not integration, the architecture diagram, deployment architecture diagram that you showed in the beginning, there was just this DWP server, and it said on-premise remedy. But with DWP Advanced, there are also these cloud components, right, like chatbot and SMS bot. So do they all go together when we go for an upgrade?
Good question. Yeah. So so are you talking about a full cloud deployment or a hybrid type deployment?
Hybrid only. At the moment, we have only DWP basic on-premise. We want to now move into this advanced and specifically this chatbot, SMS bot.
Okay, got it. So the way that will work is your DWP and your DWP Advanced should be co-located. So you can't have your, which means it should be either in the cloud or on-prem. And then you will have the chatbot, which is a cloud-only offering. It will integrate with your, let's say your DWP and DWP Advanced is on-prem, talking to the cloud chatbot, then it will be integrated as a hybrid integration using Kazing. So that's the software that we use for tunneling, or for gateway, and get access to it. Or the other option is you expose your DWP over internet, and then the chatbot can directly access it. Now, when it comes to upgrade, it needs to be coordinated so that it can go hand in hand. In most of the cases, the upgrade of chatbot or the cloud components are done pretty quickly. They do it as soon as the product is released, within a few days. So that needs to get, that should be coordinated. Let's say you're on a very old version of DWP and the chatbot is 1808. It's not going to work. So that needs to be coordinated. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And there are no further telephone questions at this time.
Okay, well, we wanted to...
I apologize,
one more?
sir. We do have another question. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Caller, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Thank you. In earlier versions of MyIT, we needed to rerun the UX patch on the AR server after ITSM was upgraded. Is this still the same in DWP 1805 and above?
No, it's not the same. So you don't have to rerun it after the ITSM upgrade. And the other thing is, like I said earlier, there is no social plugin for DWP. So you don't really have to run the UX patch, or we call it as the integration patch, on different ITSM server. You just have to run it on the primary ITSM server or the AR server, just to import all the workflows to the AR.
So the integration patch only is needed only once.
That's correct. Yes, it's needed only once and on one server. One
yeah,
time.
But even after upgrade ITSM.
That's correct. Yes, it should retain all
okay.
the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there are no further telephone questions at this time.
Okay, so at this point, we'll go to wrap up our session, and I wanted to thank everybody for joining. Wanted to review some of the self-help and contacting BMC methods. There is a YouTube channel, BMC Remedy and Discovery. This is where we post these webinar recordings as well as how-to videos and other types of self-help videos. You can check this channel out, subscribe, as well as our knowledge base is available 24/7, and the normal ways to contact technical support, web, phone, and email, as well as the social channels as well. Again, thank you for joining this month's webinar, and thank you, Sirjad, and all the panelists.